One single tweet from Trump and the entire market fell off. Now listen, there's one U.S. company in particular that we talked about a while back that can really become ground zero for an economic rare earth war. Now listen to me, y'all. I really want you to understand this. We talked about this company a couple weeks ago. I mean, maybe Monday, and it has exploded since then. Ticker symbol USAR. This isn't just a ticker symbol. Now it is becoming a real battlefield because while traders are watching prices, governments are truly working for control right now. And today in this video, I'm going to show you how Trump and his war against China with these rare earth minerals has now triggered a chain reaction. And the one thing I'm going to show you here, we're going to get on the charts and we're going to see where we can really make money. Because it's not just a chart analysis that I'm going to show y'all. No. It's way bigger than technical analysis. This is geopolitical war written on the candlesticks, and we going to point it out. Listen, now is the time for you to be in these markets and making money because jobs will leave us. Now listen, a lot of traders are just watching price. But the government, they're watching control because that's what they're fighting for. And today I'm going to show you how Trump's triggering war on China with rare earths is going to be a whole lot of money for us to be made. That's right. And we're going to get on a chart and we're going to talk about it because this is not just about technical analysis. It's about geopolitics written all in the charts. And we're going to get to it, y'all. But now, before we get into that, man, I need you to like, I need you to subscribe, and I need you to share this video out with somebody. And you know why? Because this is going to be one of them ones that truly changed the game for us. Let's go. Before we get into the charts, I got to show you this, right? Now, here's the tweet that Trump put out. And it's really talking about how China tightening things on these rare earth exports is really going to send the U.S. scrambling. This is why you saw Trump and them earlier. That they saw this coming. They understood that China controls 80% of all rare earth processing. They understood that. That's why they've been getting into stuff like MP. That's why this company we're going to talk about today, USAR, which we talked about Monday. Go look at that Monday video we put up where we broke that whole thing down and why this thing was going to explode. When I posted the video, it was $26. It's now $35. But check it. Let's just look at some of the things that Trump says in this tweet that's real interesting. I want us to see this and I want us to see it from a different perspective. Now, here's what he says. He says, some strange things are happening in China. They're becoming very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world that they want to expose export controls on each and every element of production of having to do with rare earths, which means China wants full control. They like, nah, we ain't playing that. We ain't depending on nobody. This is what we do now. Here's what gives them an upper hand because they understand that with the world going to AI and all these things taking place, these magnets, all of these elements, they control the process. So even if you have the rare earths, minerals, or the elements, China is in control of the processes. Let's go a little further. Trump says, our relationship with China over the past 6 months has been very good, thereby making this move on trade an even more surprising one. I've always felt that they've been lying and waiting, and now, as usual, I have been proven right. There's no way that China should be allowed to hold the world captive by what seems to have been their plan for quite some time, starting with the magnets and the other elements that have been quietly amassed into somewhat of a monopoly position. A rather sinister and hostile move to say the least, but the U.S. has monopoly positions, also much stronger and more far-reaching than China's. I just want to stop right there because I want you to think about what the world looks like with no magnets, y'all. Like, we don't think about it, but magnets are in everything that we have. Imagine you have to go through China to process that. I just want you to understand how important these rare earths are. And that's why I said to y'all, listen, y'all, we really got to be investing into this because this is where it's at. This is about control. This is about scarcity. This is about dependency. This is about opportunity. And in case you don't understand this, before we get into the charts, I need you to know something. Rare earths matter. Quick question. Which rare earths do you know about? Now, there's 17 And these things are powering the modern world. Fighter jets, EV batteries, AI chips, and we talked about this. China controls 80% of the processor when it comes to that. But the US wants their dependence. They need their independence on this. They don't want to be dependent on China. And companies like USAR are critical for that strategy. Now, I need you to understand something. Rare earths aren't just materials. They aren't just some things that we see around and no. They're leverage. Now think about it. Just this past week, I said it. The stock is up 28% just this week alone. We made the video Monday. The stock was $26. It's $35 right now. Think about this. That statement from Trump, let it be known, yo, we not laying down. And I want us to understand in our brain, if this is the importance of where the market is, this is where we need to be investing at. Now, I'm going to go a little further for y'all and show y'all something. In my Patreon group, the link is below, I put us on this play Tuesday. I put us on this play Tuesday. We got in at $26. The play has now gone up to $35. We up 36%. It is a longer call because it's in March, but if we would have had it a little shorter, but I like to give myself time. And because I like to give myself time, I like to be able to go through some things. And when the market starts to reset and pull back, I like to be able to still maneuver. But what I want to do with y'all right now is I won't get into the charts. That's right. All right, so now we get back on the chart, I want you to see something. I marked something out for us that's going to be important. So notice this line at 1484. Notice this. Every time it hits 1484, it falls down. But I want to point out something that's real interesting to you. If you look right here, you see after we break out of here, we jump up right here to this level of 1849. What happens right there is that's called an equal high. That's going to automatically be a liquidity zone. Why? Because anytime you have equal highs and equal lows, that's going to be liquidity. So we mark that off, right? So that automatic tells us, oh, I know why that sold off. That was an equal high to that wick over there. Got it. I see that sell off. Now, notice it sells off. We get all of this down here, but now we can't break what? That lower high. That lower high right here at 1484. That is important for us to see. If we can start maximizing and start visualizing zones and key levels, we don't have to know, you don't have to know a lot of stuff. You can just understand, hey, this is a key level. Now watch this. If we get to this same key level, we see it right here. 3 touches, 1, 2, 3, falls off. Same zone, 1484. Same thing. Now, here's what's interesting. Let me show you something. You see right here, you see a candle close. So you say, okay, Trap, well, what happened here? Watch this. You see a candle close, and then the next day it shows you that it gapped up, but immediately it come right back down. That's why this was a play for you to pay attention to, right? If you was paying attention to it when it happened, like, hey, we didn't get a candle close and then it gapped up and ran up. You got a candle close, right? We mean this green candle close above that area. It gapped up that next morning and came straight down. That let us know out the gate, sellers wasn't having it, right? That let us know sellers wasn't having it. So let's just, because I got to get us to where we at today so we can know why this is important for me. Again, same level, 1484, you can see it. It hits it, fall. You see the liquidity grab with this doji right here, fall. Now, here's where things get interesting. Now, you break above it, right? You get 1, 2, 3 days, but guess what happens? It runs into resistance. What is the resistance? Well, the 2006. Where's that at? Previous all-time high. If you understand key levels, y'all, if we just understand key levels, we'll be okay. Now, look, previous all-time high, get close, sellers reject it, comes back down, falls on top of it, goes below the 1484, and then we get in that range. So now let's take us to where we are today. So, and I just like to tell us a little history of what happened, the story of it, so we can understand key levels, start pointing out little things that can happen, so you can start looking at the chart. Like, and my goal for you is to be looking at the chart saying, oh, I get it. I see that. I understand that. Oh, that makes sense to me. Because if I can get you to do that, then you can start reading them on your own. All right, so let's go a little bit further into this. This is when I broke this out. Let's talk about this right quick. So it breaks here. So you get some selling pressure once it breaks. You get a lot of buying pressure, right? You get a lot of buying pressure right here. So it breaks previous all-time high. Then it closes, and then you get this gap up. and then you get that gap up. Now notice you get the gap up and then you don't get no real movement. The next day you get another red candle, right? Which tell us sellers is not having it. But notice what's happening here. It's hitting that liquidity pool, which is that gap up. It's hitting that liquidity pool. And what did we say about that? Those are orders that the market needs to fill. Now notice something. I said this before. It only needs to touch it to take some of them orders. It don't always have to go all the way deep inside there. So it touched it one day, closed, then jumped back up. Buyers pushed it up here. Buyers pushed it up. Let's mark that out because that'll become a key zone for us. 30.92 will become a key zone for us. Buyers pushed it up. Sellers rejected it. Watch this. Sellers get it, push it back, come close to that, jump back up. Now we have buyers in full control. Well, buyers in control, not full control, but buyers are in control. Now, I just want us to understand something before I really get into what we really need to see. Now, here's what I want to do for us right now. Now we're going to get into where I like to thrive at. And why I like to thrive at is a last 5 or 6 candle read, because that's the true story for me. All of that I just gave you up till was like, this is how we got here. Now I like to give you a little his history so you can pay attention to how we got here. Because watch, I'm going to erase all that. None of that even matters no more. And now we're going to really talk about what's going on right now. Let's get into it. So here's what happens. So let's mark our new all-time high right here. We about to get busy, y'all. We're going to mark our new all-time high right here. We're going to mark that out. Now, out the gate, here's what I know we see. We see that 100% that our sellers are defending all-time highs, right? They defending all-time highs. Now, before we get into that, we got to write out a couple things so we really strapped up, so we really know what's going on. So one of the things I like to do is I like to come back and do this. Now, we in this week right here, but I like to do this. Let me get this out of here. I like to mark this out. Previous week high. And y'all gonna see me do this every time I get on a chart, y'all. Let me change my color. Let me change that again to blue. And then I'm gonna mark my previous week low. Now, what that tells me is that's letting me know where am I trading at in this current week. Right, that's what that's letting me know. That's going to tell me where am I trading at in this current week. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to I know where my current day high at. Now I'm going to also mark out I know what I got to mark this previous day because we talking about the day before today. And I'm going to write that down, previous day's high. And then I'm going to come right here and mark something else. Previous day low. Now, Trap, why are you writing all that on the screen? Well, what happens is now it lets me know what type of zone I'm trading in. The first thing I like to look at after I mark that out is, the next thing I like to look at is, do I have any open gaps that I need to mark out? And here, I do. So we'll mark that out. So now here's what we understand. We understand that we have a previous day high marked out. We understand we have a previous day low marked out. Now, because we got our previous day high marked out, our previous day low marked out, our previous week high marked out, and our previous week low marked out, now we understand what's the zone we trading in. So now I want to break that down to you. So here's what I see. I see that the daily candle at the top, after the gap up right here, because this is a gap up, I see that daily gap up has a long wick rejection. So that tells us for sure that buyers drove the price up, but the sellers absorbed it. Watch this. Say that again. Buyers drove the price up. We had a gap up here. So this is where it closed at. Then we had a big gap up here. So that's a $2 gap up. Then buyers drove the price all the way up to all-time highs, but sellers absorbed that, meaning they took all them orders and pushed it back down. Now, it also means that at some point, sellers pushed the price down, but buyers said, nope, we not doing that. So now that's where the doji candle really comes in at, because it's called a long-legged doji, right? So you have those long wicks on both sides. But what we do see is it is closing above previous day's high, which is good for us. And it's closing above previous week's high, which tells us that the buyers are in control, right? And as long as we know that buyers are in control, that gives us a great feeling, right? Now let's do this because we need some action. Now, what we see now is we see that the stock is also above our what? Our 20-day SMA, which also tells us that buyers are in control. So even though we have this rejection candle, it tells us that the buyers are in control. And it's not a reversal, but buyers are tiring. And that can be a distinction, right? Now, I also want to say this. Today's candle does suggest that buyers are strong, but the absorption at the top shows that smart money is doing what? Distributing to late chasers, right? That means that they say, hey, they got some people chasing this late in the day or late in the week. We need to trap them up. We need to put some pressure on them. And that's going to be key for us when we looking at the markets, because what we need to understand too is it's not just about candles. It's sellers being exhausted, right? It's buyers being trapped. It's who's taking control. That's the story that we need to be able to tell consistently through the market, right? We also know that on top of the all-time high, there's going to be some clusters, which means there's going to be some stops up there. There's going to be some people saying, hey, if it gets up here, there's some stop losses right here, right? Some sellers may put that up there. So what happens now is that can create a moment where we see equal highs, where we see two highs come up there, and that becomes a liquidity zone where sellers start to defend, right? That becomes, and I want to say this, and this is going to be important. If we break back down, I want to now use previous day's high as a support level. So 32.59 will be a support level moving forward for me if I'm looking at this. Right, 32.59 would be a support level for me if I'm looking back at this, right? So if price does come back down, I wanted to stay above a previous day's high. That's going to be essential for me. Now, we talking about today. Going into next week, it'll be something different, right? So this is what we see right here. So we are in a macro uptrend, which means we are in an overall uptrend. We see that higher highs, lower highs. That means the stock is going up. And I want to say something to you. Anytime a stock is going up vertically, that ain't luck. That's institutions saying, this is what's going on. This is what we doing. This is the move we want to make. And what we have to do as retail investors is follow their lead. Right? So that's one thing I just want to put on our map right there as we looking at stuff like this, right? And we want to be mindful when we looking at the market that we always looking for liquidity sweeps, because that's where the market is always going to. Now, I also want to say this to you. Anytime you see the previous day's lows, understand that there's stop losses resting under there too. So anything under 32, let me see, previous day low, anything previous day low is 27. No, previous day highs 32.59. So anything under that previous day high, they're gonna have stop losses right there. Those are the buyers saying, hey, if it dropped past this, we're gonna cut that loss short. The market understands why people think like that. So guess what the market gonna do? It'll dip past that, take that money, and go back up to the upside. So just being able to understand certain things like that gonna help us really navigate this, man. I hope y'all really locked in with me right here, right? Because the market doesn't move against you, it moves because of you, right? It wants to trap you, it wants to make you think there's a sense of urgency here, there. It wants you to move a different way that you really don't want to move. So for us, it's good that we pay attention to these type of plays and we know how to move with that. We talked about these last couple candles. These last couple candles tell us something different on a 1 hour than they did on a 4 hour. We get to get more detail. So we get to look at right here is we get to see that it hit this all-time high, got close to it, and then that. Remember we talked about equal highs. Well, that's what you have right here in a 2 hour session. You have a two-hour session where it tried to bounce back up there. It didn't happen. Sellers rejected it. But here's what happened there. Buyers got trapped. We talked about the sellers absorbing that because why? All-time high equals what? Liquidity zone. It becomes a sense of what? Resistance. All-time high becomes a piece of resistance. It had 2 hours to try to break past it, and it didn't. So because it didn't break past it, what happened? We see what happened. Well, it came down. Selling pressure became heavy. So when it came down, what I want to say is Now you have trap buyers up there at the top, which is okay, right? Because now the buyers can say, hey, as long as we on top of previous days highs, we okay, right? And that becomes the support. So you have two levels of support. You have previous days high, and then you also want to look real close right here at 30.92, which is you see that high right there, then it got rejected down, and then it came back to it again. So we want to hold that move right there at 30.92. But also we see our 20-day SMA sitting right on top of that as well. So for me, that's a line I'd be paying attention to. But also what I'm going to do is, because I'm on an hour, and that's where I like to strike from, I'm going to come from this low right here, come up to my all-time high right here, and I'm looking for two numbers. The first number I'm looking for is the halfway mark. So the halfway mark number from there is 3178, right? So 3178, let's just make sure we get that clear so we ain't guessing, because we don't like to guess about nothing. So 31, let's change that color on that so we can make sure we looking at it the right way. There we go. So 3183 is our halfway mark. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the buyers want to defend not only just 30.92, but for us from a mathematical perspective, we want to make sure that it's on top of 3183. If it's on top of 3183, that tells us that the buyers are still in control. If it falls below 3183, I want you to watch something that's really important. Now, if you look at anytime somebody use the fib, what they'll always tell you is that 0618 in that halfway mark is the golden zone for you to take a long going the other way, only if you can get confirmation. So you want to see it, touch it, confirm, and then it'll go up, right? So what we want to look at is anything in that. Now, here's what's important. Look how 30.92 fell right in the middle of our golden zone. So that's another form of confluence. So if it comes down to 30.92 and gives us a confirmation candle, that's a good another sign to buy it back to the upside. I always want to use that. I always use that, y'all. I'm not going to lie to y'all. And so now we're looking at previous week's low, which was 27.82. Now, these become zones where we really got to pay attention to as traders. And the reason being is because for me, I don't got to have a lot of stuff marked on. But I want to see, what is it retesting? So is it retesting the area? Is it being pulled down to a certain area? Because what that allows me to do is say, when can I get in? Or if it's breaking this area A, I need to get away from it because it's going the opposite way. So for me, we see those sellers are trapped up top. And because they trapped up top, that's cool. We see it coming down. We see the selling pressure being heavy. We want a first line of defense if it's staying on top of that previous day high, which is 32.59. If it can stay on top of that 32.59, give us a confirmation candle, go back to the upside. Now we already know that 37.85 becomes what? Resistance. So we want to see what happens there. Or if it breaks that, we want to see if it now stays on top of 32.92. Now, I will say this. If it breaks 32.92, buyers, sellers are in full control. And now we want to say it done broke 31.89. It done broke 30.92. We need to be looking at a downside play all the way to about 27.82. If it breaks 27.82, we know we're going straight to this liquidity pool, which is anywhere between 22.89 and 25.02. So those are the areas I'm looking at when I'm looking at this chart, when I'm looking at this. And the reason what I need us to understand is when we're looking at that Fibonacci, that gives us ranges, and we see our ranges are aligning with what? Our 20-day SMA. So that means and I also want you to look at the market. When you're looking at the fib and you're looking at these zones, I like to look at things as zone and not actual prices. So I want to look at it like that. So if we lose 30.92, we know exactly where we're going. So if we lose 30.92, we know we're going right into that liquidity zone. Because great traders, we don't try to predict, we try to just prepare for it. And we put fundamentals in play that back what we see. So when Trump tweets something about rare earth, he's not talking about small companies directly, but the theme that ignites them. USAR, they wasn't just moving randomly. They understand what's going on and the reflection of this policy. And so AI, defense, energy, all of these things rely on what USAR produces. And that's why I said, think of a world where we don't use magnets. That's going to be real crazy, right? And so what I want us to think about this, Every chart tells a story. That's why even in the beginning, I started off with telling you the story of how we got here. And people from the AMD video was like, yeah, Trap, we like that, because now we looking at structure, we looking at technical levels, we looking at how emotion becomes opportunity, and then we looking at how geopolitics move the markets faster even in earnings. So smart traders don't just connect the dots, they actually connect the dots before the crowd does. And that's what we got to do. That's what this is all about for me, letting us get on a chart and saying, hey, here's where the emotion at. Here's where buyers are trapped at. Here's where sellers are trapped at. Here's where buyers are taking over at. And in a world where tweets can shake markets like it did today, minerals can move nations. And understanding price action is more than trading, it's decoding the power. So what we'll say this again about USAR. We want to see a whole previous day high. If it breaks between previous day high, we want to see how far it comes down. Our next level of support is 3092, which is also confluence with our what? SMA. If it breaks that, now we've broken structure. We've broken structure. So now we move into the downside. We want to see now if it breaks past 28.25. If it breaks that, you know it's going into the liquidity pool looking for up. But if it breaks to the upside, we know that 37.85 becomes what? It becomes resistance. Why? Because you have an equal high. It needs to break that. I do believe this is a $50 stock. When it gets there, I think sometime by the end of this year, by next year, I think it can get there for sure, especially if Trump buys in. This news today shows us exactly why the rare earth minerals trade is a powerful trade. It's your boy, the Wall Street Trap, man. I hope you learned a lot from this video. I know this was a longer video than usual, but I think this is of extreme importance, and I think we truly need to pay attention to this, man. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and tell me if you own this stock and you got in on it, man. Salute.